Okay, man. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, do you have any advices for young players who wants to really go deep into the jazz vocabulary? And, for example, with myself, I'm trying to understand deeper how to interact properly. Any advices and thoughts about that?
Yeah. First of all, again, man, you're asking amazing questions. There's two vantage points. The best way for drummers now to really learn the language is to go back to the beginning. I realize now that I had an unusual experience when I learned jazz. I actually was fortunate to learn from a lot of different people, but everybody kept taking me back to the beginning. You know, I didn't start, it's funny, I didn't hear a recording of Tony Williams till I was in college.
Oh, really?
The first drummer I heard was Buddy Rich, then I heard Philly Joe Jones.
Start.
Yeah, you know, then I heard Philly Joe Jones, then I heard people tell me to check out Papa Joe Jones, and so everybody, when they hear me now, they say, man, you know, you play a lot of great modern stuff, but you have this old soul to you, and it's really because I started with the beginning. You know, I started with the guys who, they were the first ones that played this music, and then as I evolved as a drummer, I then went with guys like Tony Williams, Rashid Ali, and, you know, Alphonse Mouzon, all these modern drummers. So for me, I started checking out more modern things as I grew, and that's not actually what's happening now. Is that drummers are kind of, you know, starting with Tony Williams, you know,
or Crusade.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I think that's one of the biggest issues I find. So go back to the history, and then I have to ask you to ask me the second part of that question.
Oh yeah, some advices on how to understand how to interact more properly.
Yeah, that to me is the one thing that I'm still learning. You know, you can listen to records to hear the language, to learn the language, but the way that you interact, it's like learning a real language, right? Is you gotta get in the heat of battle. So to me, you can't interact shedding by yourself. Like if I had $1 for every drummer that comes to me and says, man, you interact so well, how can I learn how to do it? And I say, well, how much time do you spend practicing with other people? Oh, well, I'll tell you what I'm working on by myself. Well, that's the problem. When you practice on your own, I'll tell you, someone told me a quote. They said you practice to alleviate the instrument as an obstacle, right? So you practice to remove the instrument as a problem. So your practice time is so that when you sit down, there's no problem playing. The interaction, that can only come from playing with other people. So you want to get better at interacting? Put yourself in situations where you're playing with new people. So I think, honestly, that's been one of my strengths. And what's helped me to work a lot is I really have a strong ability to blend with anybody. You know, like, I mean, that's something that I will never say that I'm the best drummer. I'll never say that I have the fastest hands, because I mean, there's so many great drummers I know around the world that are my friends that are great. But one thing that I do feel is my strength is that, man, you can sit me in a band with guys from Israel, you can sit me in a band with guys from Italy or guys from Florida, and I can figure out how to blend and interact with them.
I think that's because of this.
It's because of that, and also I'm open. You know, like when I come to a band, I listen in a way that I immediately pick up how, like, somebody's beat, right? Because, you know, if you're from Italy, the way that your culture is, you're gonna process time different than a guy from Israel. So for me as a drummer, I have to sit down and hear you and say, okay, he's hearing the beat this way. Let me blend with that, you know? And then if I play with a guy from Israel, I say, okay, he's hearing the beat this way. A lot of times what we do as musicians, we don't listen to each other. We come to it with like a way that we play, and then that's it. And then you know, we have the issue.
To be willing to find a compromise.
Yeah, you gotta, and part of that is knowing a lot of music. You know, if you know a lot of music, then you know, you have like a vocabulary. Like, you know, if you say, okay, I know from Baby Dolls to, you know, Chris Daddy Dave, and you got a lot of options.
100 years of.
Yeah, and that's essentially what I've been working on, is just building my discography and building my knowledge of music and styles of music. So I can, honestly, I can go from very beginning New Orleans music, traditional. I can play anything from that up to, you know, Robert Glasper and whatever's current now, you know, up to pop music if I needed to, because I spent a lot of time.
That's mainly what I'm trying to do too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
and
interesting to hearing somebody like you who already has that kind of span.
But I'm always learning. I'm never, you know, you never wake up and you're like, I know 100 years of music.
True,
you know?
true.
But you just, yeah.
But I get what you mean, so it's great. any you want to share with us anything like your vision for your future? If you have any projects coming up, any CDs or
sure. The first thing, I have to self-advertise. I have a new CD coming out in 2 weeks, I think it is, February 4th on iTunes. It's called Onward and Upward, and it features a great band. It's Ruben Rogers on bass, Anat Cohen, Gilad Hexelman, Christian Sands, a couple other special guests, so I'm really excited about that. It's for me, a really beautiful record where I really feel like I'm coming into my own. And it's kind of, one of my big drum heroes in terms of today. I love Brian Blade, and I love everything about what he does musically, especially as a leader. And so it's kind of my departure from just one style of playing to a new style of playing. And I play a lot of groove stuff on this album, and it's a side of me that a lot of people haven't really heard. So I'm really excited about that. I have another project I'm working on, specifically in the Japanese market in the summertime. It's a band called New Century Jazz, and it's kind of my take on like an Art Blakey style, kind of modern Art Blakey ensemble with some great arrangements and stuff. So that's cool, and then I'm always producing. So the biggest way to stay in touch with what I'm doing, check out my website, which is ulyssesowensjr.com. Also my production site, which is uojproductions.com, so any albums that I'm producing, that as well. So yeah, man, I'm always looking to meet great people and always collaborating, and I think for me, I just want to make better music, and music that really is in touch with my heart.
Thanks a lot for taking the time of being with us today.
Thank you for having me, man.
It's been a pleasure, and good luck with everything.
Thank you, man. I'm a huge fan of the show, and I'm really, to all the watchers and viewers and listeners, check out anything and everything that he does on the show. He's a great guy. So,
thanks.